highlights non-violent themes common to the lives of Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Daisaku Ikeda. But is their brand of peace still relevant in today's current times? And joining us for that discussion is a co-organizer of the exhibition, Dr. Lawrence Edward Carter Sr.
And he is Dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel at Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, we've read about champions of peace like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King, talking about greater freedom, independence for the people. What do you think are some of the common traits of these people and their work that are, that are still carried through today?
Well, the need to overcome racism, xenophobia, the need to seek a more peaceful means for harmony in society by nonviolent means, since militarism is outmoded as the method for conflict resolution between nation states.
Well, as you just say that, we all know that, the non-violent ways to seek peace, that's a legacy carried on by the likes of heroes like Martin Luther King Jr. and also Gandhi and others. But, in this day of age, as Steve and I just introduced in our intro, does it really make sense? And is it relevant to what is happening?
Oh, yes, it's most relevant. We need a win-win solution, a solution that has justice at its heart. And I think that dialogue, soft power, as emphasized by Daisaku Ikeda, who has done more to institutionalize the nonviolent philosophies of Gandhi and King than anyone in this hemisphere, and I really think in the world. Soft power, dialogue, not sanctions or threats.
Right.
Sanctions worked in South Africa. This is just a little different in North Korea. You see, the people who are going to be hurt most are the people who need food, clothing, who need to be supported by their government, but they're the ones who are going to suffer the most with the sanctions.
Then what is in your view, what is your way to, for instance, deal with the North Korean tension that we face today?
Well, I think that Dr. Ikeda would point, along with Gandhi and King, to the Clinton administration when President Clinton sent Madeleine Albright, Secretary of State, to dialogue with the Chief of State of North Korea. I think they want respect. You see, all of the nations that have nuclear weapons have violated the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel, Pakistan, India, and now North Korea have slipped in. And you said this morning there are at least 30 other countries lined up in the wings wanting to have the respect that you get from having these weapons. The United States introduced this new criteria for respectability in 1945.
But bearing that in mind, we talk about dialogue as the best means. What if the other party is not willing to come to dialogue? What if they don't want to talk to you? Is there ever a situation where you can say, maybe then we need to act a little bit to push them on?
Unfortunately, the American government bears most of the blame for having demonized the government of North Korea with its language regarding an axis of evil. We need to lower the rhetoric. I think that you always have to maintain the hope and the possibility that people will operate from a position of goodwill when they can't point to hypocrisy, to inconsistencies. And there's plenty of that to go around. It's hard to reprimand somebody for being immoral when you've got violations of ethics that are very apparent, that people can point to. And so I believe that we have to operate from faith, not fear, putting people at the heart and not profits.
Well, just as you make these points, these points have been raised time and time again by various analysts, protesters, activists around the world. And it's actually hit the Bush administration quite hard, the approval ratings going down rapidly. What do you think will happen as, for instance, in the next presidential election? Do you think this could, sorry to trigger away, but since you pointed out all these points, what, in your view, what do you think will happen in the next presidential election?
Well, I think we don't have to wait that long. I think in November, there's going to be a massive shift. I think the signs are already there. The American people feel like they didn't quite get what they voted for. And I think that the Democrats are going to gain. Now, in terms of 2008, I think it is possible that the Republicans can improve their situation. But I think they're going to have to eat some humble pie. I think they're going to have to join the international community and respect the United Nations a little more. And perhaps the new leader from South Korea will be effective as the new Secretary General of the UN.
I mean, I guess sometimes, a lot of times, it's the environment you're in, you know, which sort of cultivates your sense of what is peace to a certain extent. I mean, just sort of to bring it back. So let's say people who are growing up in countries where there is constant turmoil, and then again we go to them and say, yeah, let's talk about peace. Is that something that could be irrelevant to these people? Will they be able to appreciate it because of the context they're in?
Well, I think that you always have to keep in mind that peace is not an outside thing, it's an inside job. It's the place you're coming from. And I think that you have to always remain optimistic and hopeful. You know, I think Dr. King, Dr. Ikeda, and Gandhi would say if they were the last people left on the planet calling for peace and nonviolence, so be it. Calling for soft power and dialogue, so be it. You cannot let the circumstances, the situation you're in, influence your move toward peace. You have to learn how to be peaceful in a chaotic situation.
But what if there are no examples to learn from? I mean, if we look at Gandhi, he is a role model. So you look at him, you say, I appreciate that. I aspire to be like him to a certain degree. But if I have no role models...
No, you've got one. More than anyone on the planet, in my belief, one who is worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize, who has been overlooked, is Daisaku Ikeda. And he is from your hemisphere. Yesterday, I went to a kindergarten, to the Soka kindergarten in this city. Gandhi said, if you're going to have a nonviolent society, you must begin with the children. Dr. Ikeda has founded 2 major universities, one in the United States and one in Japan, built on a pedagogy of peace, a curriculum of peace. It is very important that we start to get some new methods into the mainstream for how we enlighten and educate and help people to actualize their potential. I think you've got the example. They've been ignored. You must not forget, Dr. Ikeda, since 1960, has built the world's largest spiritual, peace-oriented community that practices, which is more than preaching.
Okay, well, we'll have to leave it there. We still had a couple more questions to ask you, but unfortunately, we're, as always, out of time. Well, many thanks for your thoughts, though. Our guest this morning, Dr. Lawrence Edward Carter, Sr., Dean of the Martin Luther King Jr. International Chapel, Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia of the United States, and with his insights on building peace.
Building peace. Look within yourself first and start from there. Well, this is Primetime Morning on Channel News Asia. We're going to head off for a short break, but do stay with us. We're back in just about 2 minutes.